Hey folks, how you guys doing today? We're going to do some work on Spelljammer Combat Exploration. We're converting this to 2024 mechanics. Well, rather, we're combing the document to find if there's things that can be converted into 2024, and if they can, should they? That's the dialogue that we're having. And give me a second here. Let me check my signal here real quick. I'm going to do some quick social media tags, and then we'll get into this for a couple hours. So my volume sounds good, so I'm going to drop that down and keep it out of the way. And I'm going to grab the link here that we've gone live. So it takes less than a minute for me to do this. If you're catching this in the future, skip ahead and we'll get into the meat of today's episode. But if you're trapped here in space-time with me now here, my name is Phil Kearney. What's up? I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and I publish them online. And I've been creating content for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition for since 2018. I've been let's go to miscellaneous over here and update our link. There we go. And let's see. Yeah, I've been DMing since 1987. I've been a freelance illustrator since 1999. And I love Spelljammer. It is such a fantastic setting. Fell in love with it immediately when I purchased the box set back in 91, 92, something like that. 91. It would have been 91. I was 16. I remember my 16th birthday, I believe. That's when I picked that up. So, super fun setting. Space pirates, fantasy astral sea. It's all just good business. And so we built out mechanics for scaling up ships to operate at the 50 and 500 foot square instead of a 5 foot square, so you could have ship combat use the same mechanics you already know from 5 foot scale character combat, like in a dungeon, and just apply the physics of having flight and hover capability, and then fashion the means of switching between the 50, 500 foot scale and back and forth, so that you can depict different scales of battle coinciding on the same battlefield. So you can zoom in and out of different ships of what they're doing per round, as many ships as you want, or the fleet system that hopefully we'll be getting to today. If not today, then on Monday. The fleet system that allows you to command multiple ships at the same time as a very, very easy to use mass combat system for vehicles. And we'll be deconstructing that for the bashing campaign. We'll be deconstructing that down to actual troops. So the flight mechanics that you're going to see for squadrons and fleet commanding can work with any type of creatures at any scale. It just happens to work with the narrative of vehicles to make Spelljammer work really well. Hey, what's going on, Adam? Motherfucking Jamma. Damn straight, my guy. So I think I'm done with my social posting, so I can get that stuff out of the way, and I can... I'm just peeling my layers apart, so give me a hot second here to rearrange my windows. And like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for all the good business here. In this description down here is the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration document. Where'd you go, Turkey? Down here, Spelljammer Combat and Exploration at DMsGuild. This is the document. You can click on full-size preview. It's 107 pages of spelljamming fun in the 5e game format. We give you all 107 pages, but if you decide to purchase it, you get about 120 different map assets, including everything that you need to use this combat system for Light of Zaraxis, a bunch of monsters that were presented in Spelljammer's Adventures in Space, templates for virtual tabletop building wild space systems. We have basically like character sheets for the ships, the pre-generated ships that are included with the book, as well as blank templates. So if you build your own ship, there you go. Hey, Ani, it's good to see you, my guy. Thanks a lot for the chant, my guy. I really appreciate that. So you can check out all this stuff. I'm going to be using, of course, the purchased download, so it doesn't say sample on it. But for Light of Zaraxis, if you click on this icon back here, it'll take you to the conversion guide. Basically, everything that we have in this book, we demonstrate how to use them by converting all of the parts of Light as Araxes that implement any of these mechanics. So I like to show and tell instead of just telling you or suggesting, here's some deep mechanics that have nothing to do with 5e. I hope you enjoy it. No, when I make a system, I fucking run a campaign with it and make sure it works the way that I want it to, and then I build it out. And the only reason I do that is because it's the kind of campaign as a DM I want to run, which means that there's other DMs out there and certainly players that want to be able to engage in this sort of system of like having an actual fleet battle when you go and attack the Citadel of the Citadel of Light. Is that what it's called? The Citadel of Light on the where is it? Scroll down, Kearney. Yeah, you build your fleet by going to Vokath's Flying Fortress, and you recruit allies, and of course you could have a battle with Prince Zeleth, who shows up with 12 Star Moths. You actually are a little overwhelmed. It's the odds are against you, but you could fight it out if you wanted to. Or as you go through your procedure at Vokath to recruit allies, these are the different fleets that you can gather up to assist you in battle. So we have the stats of operating all of these ships as a unit. So these 6 ships act as one. These ships act as one. These 7 ships act, this and this are separate units, but they're crowding in, so you can treat them as one unit, or you can blow these out into 1, 2, 3 separate squads inside of this little fleet. You got these ships, and this is where your characters are presumably going to be at inside this fleet here with the heavy hitters. Lots of guardians, and your the ghost ship from Garganhale, and the Second Wind, the living ship, in comparison to these ships that you get from Vokath if you win his favor. So you take all those ships, you go to the systems of Zaraxis. Now we have a grid that we can actually move 100 million miles per day from the edge of wild space towards your objectives. And here's how our fleet gets set up. Each of these Star Moths squadron, there's 4 Star Moths in a squadron. And so here are the different 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the 8 squadrons that are defending the Citadel of Light. And here is your fleet back here, represented by A through D, which again we have notated here as A, B, C, D, E, and F. And we have those down here, A, B, C, D, E, E, F. And this system is designed to show you how the fleet mechanics work, which are at the back end of the combat section that we're going over today. See, here we have organizing into squadrons, how to calculate how much Oh wait, where is it? Here we go. Calculating the size, like the amount of damage and how many hit points a fleet has as opposed to individual ships. So this is demonstrating how you count squares to determine how much damage they can do. It's by mass, like how much stuff is filling this space that they're in. That's how much more damage you're going to do. So the less space you fill, the less damage you're dealing. You've got more empty space than solid ships, so you do less. It's talking about like having multiple ships attack a single target at the same time. So we go through all these mechanics, and we're going to go through all of these mechanics. But for now, we want to go back to the frontier area. Squadron commands. Ship rolls, pilot roll, Where did we leave off? Weapons and crew. Here we go. This is where we're starting today with weapons and crew on page 29. So there's that. You guys can tag along with me on page 29 if you want. And we're doing our change log up here in the Spelljammer subclass works in progress. This is the subclasses that I've been working on Tuesday and Friday lunches. And at the back end of this is where we have been documenting all of our changelog stuff. I've already integrated chapter 1, equipment and ships, last week, and this is the changelog that we have accumulated so far to make this compliant with 5e24 language. And we left off, here we are, we left off on page 28, and now we are moving into page 29, weapons and crew. So let me make sure I have all my shit organized, and actually, I'm going to drop this one and this one. I don't need those. I've got them open over here, and here's the Here's the read-along document when wanted. Here is my change log. Here are spare windows if I need them for jumping around. I think I've dragged on the intro long enough, so I've got an alarm going. I've got some water. Let me catch up. Obscure reference for youngsters. Hey, what's going on, Steve? Exterminator's button. Okay, great. So yeah, we're doing a read through basically, and when anything catches in my craw, we've found some typos. There's been some math errors. Shit hops up, and it's really difficult to catch all of the editing along the way, especially when I have to move text around to make it fit into the pages properly. Sometimes rewrites happening. That's on me, not Adam. Adam is an excellent editor. He did a great job with this. Is when I go and I have to start rewording stuff, sometimes I make changes and I fuck up not fixing them. So going through here allows us to catch errors and fix them. Huzzah, a better book. Me looking at my Sony open tabs, yeah. Let's see. So, okay, great. So we're going to dive into this. And like I said, when we see opportunities, when we see an error, an edit, or a 5e24 change, we're going to pause, jump over here into the workbook, and we're going to start texting out what's the proper way to do that, and then we'll move on. And then off screen, this weekend, my plan is to upgrade and integrate all this stuff in, and we'll probably be working at the tail end of combat and repairs, maybe getting into spell casting on Monday. We'll see what the timing works out as. So, without further ado, Spelljammer Combat and Exploration. We're talking about weapon and crew. So, Spelljammer Combat and Exploration describes two categories of ship weapons: siege and mounted. These categories include both melee and ranged weapons. So, siege weapons are designed to attack vessels and other similarly scaled targets. As such, these large weapons deal massive damage, but have limitations on how effectively they can attack smaller targets. So targets that are larger than 50 feet in size, such as vessels, can be attacked as normal. Targets that are up to 50 feet in size can be attacked with disadvantage. And targets up to 50 feet in size with half or more cover cannot be attacked by siege weapons at all. They have too much cover. You can't get a clear shot on them. This tree I'm trying to shoot at you, you've got too much wall in the way. I can't get a clear shot at your head. And if you're smaller than 50 feet, then my siege weapon, you're probably going to be a lot more maneuverable than the siege weapon is going to assume. So I'm at disadvantage to attack. And if you're if you're bigger than 50 feet, then you're basically like at the 500-foot scale. You're operating at the level of damage, like the hit points that the things have at the 500-foot scale can take hit points of damage from siege weapons like your character can take from normal combat size stuff at 5 feet. So it's that 50-foot scale where you're transitioning from 5-foot scale into the 500-foot scale. That's the gap that's been difficult for people to bridge in these different mechanical systems that people put out. They hadn't been able to find the way to scale between those two things. So I have found the solution to be a mix of both siege and mounted weapons. So mounted weapons can attack any target as normal. So an example in the illustration below, let's look at the illustration below. We've got a space galleon. We've got Captain, what's her name? Captain Sartell. And we've got a Nyogi Spiderling fighter craft. That's what we got going on here. We've got ballistas here at the front. We've got a mangonel here in the back and harpoon flingers at the back. The Spiderling has a ballista on its prow. It's got two harpoon flingers on its back. And each of these legs can act as piercing melee weapons if the Spiderling can get in contact with your ship. A space galleon doesn't have any natural melee weapons, though you could attempt to ram without having them, but you risk damaging your own ship along with damaging your target. So generally you leave it to ranged weapons and running away. That's what space galleons are good at. So here in this example, the illustration below, a Spiderling craft here with a ranged siege weapon can attack the space galleon B. The big ship, it's over 50 feet in size. So that's a fair game target for siege weapons. The mangonel without cover, here can be attacked with disadvantage. And the ballista have half cover, so cannot be attacked with the siege weapon. Over here, the ballista, there's too much stuff between the position of where the spiderling is at. There's three whole sets of mast and sails, basically between where the spiderling and the mangonels, these ballistas are at. So they have partial cover. Half cover, so cannot be attacked with the siege weapon. The spiderling's mounted ranged weapons can attack each of these targets, though half cover does grant a +2 bonus to AC of the characters in ballista. Let's see. Hold on. So cannot be attacked with right. The spiderling's mounted ranged weapons, which are the harpoon flingers up top, can attack each of these targets, though half cover does grant a +2 bonus to armor class for the characters in the ballista. Character has half cover, she can't be attacked at all. Ballistas can't be attacked at all. But the harpoon flingers, they are small enough, they're anti-personnel weapons. They're designed to shoot at the shit that's too small for the larger weapons to take out. You see, it's just military stuff. This is how the military thinks. This is how we're going to think. You have two scales of weapons. You know, big stuff and small stuff. The big stuff can't hit small stuff very good. Small stuff doesn't deal a lot of damage to big things. But the two working together is a really fun mix. Next, hold on. Before we go any further, let's go into D&D Beyond, and let's go into the rule set, and let's see if the language for cover remains the same. We'll go to basic rules. And we should find the word cover down in the glossary. Cover. Still referred to as half cover. 3 degrees of cover, each of which provides a different benefit to a target. Half cover +2 AC and Dex. 3/4 is +5 in Dex. And total cover means can't be targeted at all. There you go. Okay, so that's still valid. Have to check those points. It's actually really important. Don't want to take anything for assumptions, you know. Ship melee weapon. Okay, so now that we know that there's a difference between siege and mounted weapons, we know there's two categories for each, which is ranged and melee weapons. So we'll look at ship melee weapons. Siege melee weapons are built into vessels, such as hammerhead ships, rams, or a scorpion ship's grappling claws, while mounted melee weapons are typically built into craft, such as a spiderling's piercing rams. They can also be built into vessels, such as the mandibles and grappling claws of a night spider vessel. So the vessels can, and if you recall, actually this is really useful now. Thank you, timer. So let's peel open the document real quick. And let's drop down to, all right, this is a tangent I think is worth taking. I don't mind bouncing around so much with you guys while I'm doing this stuff. I just think it's fun to work on it. Like, this is my hobby, you know? This is my hobby within a hobby. Building books, and I don't have a reason to rush them. It's not my day job. I would love over the next 15 years for this to develop into something that could be sustainable for myself, but I'm not going to get there by running. So if I just build things slowly and methodically, we'll get to where God wants me to be in time. So here we are. Here's a night spider ship. It's 200 feet in size. So in the 50-foot scale, it's a 4x4 ship, kind of like gargantuan at the 50-foot scale, right? But you can see here it has the letter C indicated here for its front of its face. And we drop down to our bars. These are grappling claws. There you go. Yeah, grappling claws. Okay, cool. That's all I wanted to look at, just to point those out. That we have the different types, like all the different type of weapons that these ships have naturally on them. Like the prow of a star moth is it's a slashing ram. It's basically like a giant cutlass on your face, and it's got all these like it's got an eldritch cannon here. It's got harpoon flingers here and here, mangonel here, and then it has 3 ballistas here. So the guy's got some gear going on. These are rough ships. Lots and lots of weapons bristling on them. Makes it for fun combat. And your team, like, you could opt out. Like if this spiderling is going to be, or this night spider is going to be too tough for your team because it has just too much weapon damage that it can deal. Well, then you can just knock out a couple mangonels, or reduce the amount of ammunition that it has. Or disable all of its siege weapons and instead have like 1 or 2 spiderling fighter craft with it, so that your ship can deal with a battle, but you can scale it down so it's a threat for where your characters are at right now, instead of, well, 2e was very arbitrary, where we don't care how dangerous the fight is, it's a random encounter. You're going to need to learn how to calculate running away or sticking around. So like if 5 Illithid nautiloids pop out of Astral and show up on your flank and you've just got 1 ship, chances are you're going to want to fucking run away. I don't care how high of a level your character is. And 2e, 1e, AD&D in general was very much like that. We don't care how dangerous this threat is. It's up to your team to assess the threat and run away if they need to, because the DM was assumed to do that with monsters as well. But with 30, 4e, 5e, when we got into Dungeon Punk and WotC attempting to balance combat so you can determine what is and isn't fair, generally what you're going to do when you're doing this is the experience value of the creatures that are aboard the spelljamming ship that are in command, not counting the weapon crew, but the creatures that are issuing commands and operating the siege machines, their XP is generally going to determine how difficult the fight is. Because they could have a shitload of ship, but if they only have a little bit of action economy, they can't utilize all that stuff on the ship effectively. It's going to fall off to like 2 ogres and a night hag. That's all you got going for you. That's like 5,000 experience points. That's going to not be a big problem for a level 6 or 7 team. Even if that night hag and 2 ogres are on a night spider, there's 7 weapons on this ship. They got the night hag flying it and 2 ogres loading and firing weapons. That's a 5th level fight for your ship and crew. And the balance of the experience point is there because those commanders can't crack out more action economy than what your team is going to be able to absorb in damage and healing like you normally would in a 5e combat. So I like that. I'm really proud of that point. If the battle is, if it's fair against the number of troops that you're with, you can balance that equation. So generally how you can eyeball it is like how many hit points of damage does the target, like if you have like 4 ships and the total amount of hit points they have is like, say, 700 hit points of ship between the 3 of them, then if you're dealing say on average 200 points of damage per round from the ships that are coming at you, like say you're firing 5 trebuchet, which are doing about 40 points of damage on average when they hit. So if you got 5 of those attacking, assuming they're going to hit sometimes, 700 hit points will stand up against 5 trebuchet for about 5 or 6 rounds, which is the duration of a normal combat. So if your team has more experience, has enough experience points and levels to deal with the CR of the teams that are commanding those trebuchet, it's going to be a balanced fight. It really comes down to action economy, like everything else in 5e does. Action economy is everything. So having said that, ship melee weapons. Nice tangent. Ship melee weapons are built into vessels, such as a hammerhead ship's ram or a scorpion ship's grappling claws. While mounted melee weapons are typically built into craft, such as a spiderling's piercing rams, they can also be built into vessels, such as the mandibles and grappling claws of a night spider vessel, which we just looked at. Vessels can be equipped with both siege and mounted melee weapons, and craft can be equipped with mounted melee weapons. For you to deal melee damage, you have to have enough mass in your ship to be able to deal damage with that. So a siege weapon deals, like at the 500-foot scale, your fighter craft is too small to deal melee damage, so like to be able to ram and deal significant damage to like a 300-foot ship. It just can't, because you're like a 40-foot skiff. It's not going to do it. So that's the differentiation there. Hey, what's up? We love tangents. Thanks, my guy. If I got more than 10 tabs open, there's problem. Right on. I try to limit myself to 5 tabs just so I don't have my RAM running in too many directions at the same time, but you know. So ship melee reach. To make a siege melee weapon attack, the target must be within reach of the weapon, which is the same distance as the number of squares a ship occupies, which is just basic 5e rules. A large-sized creature occupies a 10 by 10 space and has a reach of 10 feet. A huge-sized creature has a 15-foot space and has a 15-foot reach. Gargantuan is 20 feet and has a 20-foot reach from there, but that's where it caps. It doesn't expand any further than that. And the Monsters and Machines supplement that we're building for Mega Kaiju, it just continues to perpetuate that. And since we can deal with creatures of any size from 5 feet to 5 miles in scale, then if I have a 5-mile creature, it can make an attack 5 miles away. Granted, it's more than a mile away, so the amount of time it's going to take for that thing to arrive and hit you is going to be so long that if you're at least a mile away, you can dodge it automatically if you're aware of it. If you don't know it's coming, of course, it's going to sideline you in the head and deal disgusting damage. But if you're at least a mile away from it, you can't fire on it because of the limitations of your siege weapons, but it can't hit you either. So it's once you close within that mile where you're really daring, like it could just like turn its head and completely just side broad you. So like it gets really dangerous when you're at that scale of creature and you're trying to interact with it. But so vessels typically occupy 2 to 5 squares at the 50-foot scale for siege weapons, and are considered. Vessels typically occupy 2 to 5 squares at the 50-foot scale for siege weapons, and are considered occupying 10 squares at the 5-foot scale for mounted weapons. At the 500-foot scale, vessels larger than 250 feet can attack targets in an adjacent 500-foot square. Because you're larger than, like a small or medium-sized creature occupies a 5-foot space. That small-sized creature might only be like 2 or 3 feet tall, but it's just enough to basically like be half the square, so it can reach into the next 5-foot square, as opposed to pixies, tiny-sized creatures. They have to actually occupy the same space as their target to be able to attack them. So that's the sort of same thing that we're looking at here. Craft occupy 2 to 10 squares at the 5-foot scale. At the 50-foot scale, craft larger than 25 feet can attack targets in an adjacent 50-foot square. Here's some examples. A night spider, here's the letter A, and here's the letter B. A night spider is a vessel that occupies 4 squares at the 50-foot scale with a reach of 200 feet. 4 squares, 200-foot reach, there you go. A spiderling, B, is a craft that occupies 8 squares at the 5-foot scale with a reach of 40 feet. And you can see here, since it's more than 40 feet, it also has a 40-foot range, so that can move, it can attack in the next square. Ship melee weapon attacks. Ship melee weapons can be used to attack by rolling d20 plus your proficiency bonus plus your pilot ability score modifier against the AC of the target. That's also known as your pilot check. When a ship melee weapon scores a critical hit, double the number of dice rolled. Many ship weapons, when a ship melee weapon scores a critical hit, which we know is a d20, double the number of damage dice rolled. Many ship melee weapons can also be used to take one or more type of attack actions, grappling, ram, scuttling, as detailed below. Ship melee weapon damage. So the damage dealt by a ship melee weapon is determined by the number of squares a ship occupies and can score a critical hit when you roll a natural 20. Vessels typically occupy 2 to 5. I probably don't need to have that I don't know why I have that comment there. I could probably just put this up there. I'm gonna keep an eye on that. This is what, page 30? Page 29R, page 30 left, score critical hit on 20. Why on 30, not 29? That's a good question, Kearney. We're gonna find out. When a ship melee weapon scores a critical hit by with a natural 20, I could just say with a natural 20, or when you roll a natural 20, a ship melee weapon scores a critical hit, doubling the number of dice rolled. I could do it either way. So, but I have it over here for a reason. Maybe the reason is because I'm careless, but we're gonna find out. So, like, there might be a reference. I don't think there's a reference somewhere else about critting. Anyway, stay on task, Kearney. Ship melee weapon damage. So the damage dealt by a ship melee weapon is determined by the number of squares a ship occupies and can score a critical hit when you roll a natural 20. Vessels typically occupy 2 to 5 squares at the 50-foot scale using siege weapons and are considered occupying 10 squares at the 5-foot scale for mounted melee weapons. Craft occupy 2 to 10 squares at the 5-foot scale using mounted weapons. So space occupied, this is the number of squares occupied, and this is the amount of damage that you deal, either as a siege attack or a mounted weapon attack. So if I occupy 2 squares at the 500-foot scale as a vessel, my siege weapon damage is going to be like a scorpion craft here. A scorpion ship that has 2 squares at the 50-foot scale. So that's a siege weapon. That means that its claws are going to do d4 times 10 damage. If it were a... here we go. Yeah, a nautiloid. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 squares at the 50-foot scale. So that's going to be d6 times 10 per tentacle. And the mounted weapon scales from d8, like a character level size. Like if I had a spear or a sword, then I'd be dealing d8 damage with my sword, right? Well, then if I'm at the 15 or 20-foot scale, my sword's doing 2d8. This is going to sound familiar for people that know about scaling damage with monsters in the monster manual. Like for example, a fire giant, which is size huge, I believe rolls 3d10 damage with its huge size bastard sword. This is reflecting that damage scaling at the 5-foot scale. And notice that when you get to 10 squares, it's 5d8 damage, which is effectively the same as 1 square at the 50-foot scale doing d4 times 10 damage. They're both going to be somewhere around 25 points of damage. Well, it'll be like probably 20, maybe 30 damage here. And here it's going to be about 25, like 24 to 26 damage here. So the damage is actually pretty comparable to each other, which is why I scaled it this way. Because once you get to 50 feet, then you can basically shift gears and move into occupying space at the 50-foot scale. Because once you hit 50 feet in size, you're now upgrading to a larger scale. That's the idea behind that anyway. So it's very simple, but the math is easy. So cheers. Scorpion ship is 75 feet long vessel, occupies 2 squares at the 50-foot scale. It has 2 siege grappling claws that each deal d4 times 10 bludgeoning damage on a hit as a ship melee attack. A spiderling ship is a 40-foot long craft that occupies 8 squares at the 5-foot scale. It has multiple legs that are mounted piercing rams. Each deal 4d8 piercing damage on a hit as a ship melee weapon attack. So ship grappling weapons. Ships can be equipped with various grappling weapons as detailed below. Siege grappling weapons. Siege grappling weapons have additional rules to consider when grappling. If a target is larger than 50 feet, it can be grappled by a number of siege grappling weapons at once equal to the space the target occupies. For instance, a living ship, which is a 2x2 space at the 50-foot scale, can be grappled by up to 2 siege grappling weapons at once. If a target is 50 feet or smaller in size, it can be grappled by only 1 siege grappling weapon at once. It's just, you grab it, and I'm holding it already. No one else can hold it. It's mine. Mounted grappling weapons. Mounted grappling weapons have additional rules to consider when grappling. If a target is larger than 5 feet, it can be grappled by a number of mounted grappling weapons at once equal to the space the target occupies. For example, a skiff, which is a 4x4, it's 20 feet. 20-foot skiff can be grappled by up to 4 mounted grappling weapons at once, and only 1 siege grappling weapon, because this rounds up to 50 feet, right? Grappling claw. Since it's built into the ship, the amount of hit points that it has is as the ship. Here's its installation cost as a siege. See, the weapon is the same. It's just a matter of how big is going to be what the damage that it deals. But the mechanics are the same, and all the mechanics scale off of the pilot or the size of the ship. So in that sense, you can build any ship that you want, and you can automatically determine how much damage is that thing going to be doing. That's a little bit of work, which is why we built out the stat sheets for all the different fighter craft and vessels that are pre-generated, like the 26 of them or whatever it is that we have in here. But we provide the blank templates so that you can build your own ship and then pencil in your own details like a character sheet. Grappling claws only require one crew, which is assumedly the pilot because it's a ship melee weapon. When you're piloting, you essentially become the ship, and it's you that is grappling and making these melee attacks while your team and all the crew is basically riding on your back and in your belly. Let me fix this. Reach, which is, again, determined by the size of the ship. The damage is bludgeoning, and the amount of damage that deals is determined by the size of the ship. And then it has the grappling attack. So when an attack hits, you can choose to grapple the target. And then special, which is crushing grip. As a bonus action, a grappling claw can deal the listed bludgeoning damage to a grappled target. So if I've got you, I can just automatically start crushing you. I can't do anything else with the claw, so it's not like I'm making attacks with it. But since I have that grip, I can use a bonus action just to give you a little bit of a crush. Grappling tentacle. Hit points as ship because it's part of the ship. Generally, there is no cost because you generally don't make grappling tentacles. They're, well, Illithid kind of grow them. Eventually, I'll release a book about the growth cycle of Illithid living ships from scuttlefish, or like little scuttlecraft that are 20 feet, up to the dreadnoughts, which are 500 feet. I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but I'd like to do that for elves. I'd like to do it for Illithid. I'd like to do it for Neogi. I'd like to do it for the Skrull Armada. And I'd also like to do it for Kuatoa, Sahuagin, and Aboleth. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But I don't know when I'm going to get to it. It's just one of those ideas that floats around in the back of my head for when I need to scratch an itch. Special grappling attack. When an attack hits, you can choose to grapple the target. This is basically the same as a grappling claw. It's just a different type of weapon. Special crushing grip. As a bonus action, a grappling tentacle can deal the listed bludgeoning damage to a grappling target. Special Illithid ships only. Teleport. As a bonus action, when a tentacle grapples a target, instead of dealing damage to the tentacle can force the target to make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the target is teleported to an unoccupied space aboard the Illithid ship. A siege grappling tentacle can teleport a target up to 20 feet in size. A mounted grappling tentacle can teleport a target up to 5 feet in size. Here's a scuttlefish, cute little guy, or cuttlefish. That's what they're called. These things are built with an eldritch cannon built into its eye. I have deck plans for this in the Spelljamming download kit. Basically, it has room for a gunner up front, and then upstairs in the back of the vessel is where the Spelljamming helm is at, and then in a compartment underneath here, underneath where the pilot is at, and behind where the gunner is at, there's basically a prisoner cell that you can dump a body, a person, like I think it can hold 2 medium-sized people, up to 4 medium-sized people if you squeeze them in, and there's holes, there's little portals that they can open up and have their tentacles reach through and start sucking on their brain while they stay in their little containment cage. So these cuttlefish craft, while they're being piloted, they can basically scuttle along, grab somebody, and then snake them back into the back of their compartment. Kind of like War of the Worlds, when they were dropping down and collecting people, and they picked them up and they put them into baskets. The Tom Cruise movie, like 2006. That was a great version of War of the Worlds, by the way. That was a fantastic version of that story. I love that. It's such a great story. But, yeah, we're good here. It can basically grab you and push you back and basically teleport and dump you into its back hatch, where it can hold a bunch of people for food. If I ever get around to making the Illithid life cycle, I'll talk about draining hit points to feed the ship and stuff like that, like a life jamming helm, but I don't need to bore you with those details right now. It's just something that's in the wing. Rams. So rams is a general term for ship melee weapons that can also be used to make a ram attack, dealing bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage. In addition to making ship melee attacks, rams have the following properties when used in a ram attack, which we talked about previously. Bludgeoning, when a pilot hits with a ram attack, and we read in the right above the ship rolls section, special maneuvers, ram. Ramming is when you attack, is when you move at least 500 feet at the 500-foot scale, or 50 feet at the 50-foot scale. Like a fighter craft can move 50 feet, a vessel can move 500 feet, and at the end of that move, make an attack. And if it's with a ship melee weapon that has the ability to ram, this occurs. So bludgeoning rams, and here's two examples. Hammerhead ship has a big fat ram on the front end of its head, and this is just basically a grill guard. It's just a thick block that just it's just raw bludgeoning damage. So when a pilot hits with a ram attack using a bludgeoning ram, roll the damage dice twice and add them. So you basically automatically crit when you hit with a ram attack. Roll the damage twice and add them together. In addition, you can choose to automatically scuttle the target as part of the attack. So when I hit you with ram attack, I made the movement, I did the attack roll, and now I get to force you to make a saving throw, or your ship gets scuttled and the gravity plane gets shifted, like we talked about last session at the front of special maneuvers. Piercing, when a pilot hits with a ram attack using a piercing ram, roll the weapon damage dice twice and add them together. In addition, you can choose to automatically grapple the target as part of the attack by impaling it. So you've got these big sharp spears on the end of your ship. When you ram your attack, you're basically just puncturing the enemy's ship and holding on to it. Now, this is a good excuse, like if you want to close to the quick and get people on the deck of the other ship for like pirate on pirate action, then using a ram attack with piercing rams is a good way to go. Scuttling is also a good maneuver because the gravity of the ship is automatically aligned to yours and throws everybody on board. And if the pilot fails their roll, they're going to get dumped out of their chair and stunned. So it's going to give you a free round to be able to get on board their ship before the pilot can re-engage and get away. When a pilot hits with a ram attack using a slashing ram, roll the weapon damage dice 3 times instead of twice and add them together, because you don't have any kicker effects. You can't grapple, you can't scuttle with a slashing ram, so we do 3 times damage instead of 2 times damage. And if you don't have any rams, if a ship is not equipped with a ram, it can still make a ram attack dealing bludgeoning damage. Roll 1 damage die to determine, which is determined by the size of the ship, as listed in the Spelljamming ship section above. The attacking ship takes this much damage as well. So you only deal half the amount of damage, which is like normal melee damage, but you take that damage too. So not having a ram equipped sucks, which is why you might want to play the Circle of the Melded Heart, the Druid subclass that we're making for Spelljammer that we streamed on Friday, where you can use your wild shape feature while you're piloting to reshape the ship to have natural weapons grow from it, so that you don't have to worry about damaging your ship when you do melee attacks, if you didn't have any built in already. Ranged ship weapons. Ranged ship weapons are attached to and occupy space aboard a ship, adding its weight to the total cargo of the ship. If a ship can't accommodate the size of the weapon, it cannot be used. The size and weight of each weapon is included in the weapon description below. Ship weapon range. So we didn't have to worry about that because melee weapons are built into the ship. They're part of the construction of the ship. But ranged weapons aren't built into it. They're just dropped on deck or bolted to it. So they add to the weight of the ship. Ship weapon range. Each weapon described below lists 2 weapon ranges: gravity range and void range. Gravity range. The gravity range of a weapon is the range listed in the Dungeon Master's Guide, which is used while occupying the space of an object with spherical gravity, like a planet or a moon. But void range, if the weapon is fired into an area without gravity, the normal range of weapons increase considerably as listed in each weapon's description below, and the long range of all ranged weapons increases to 1 mile. Long-range attacks can target larger objects farther away based on the size of the target. So if the target is up to 50 feet, you can attack it 1 mile away. And there is no time delay. If the target is 50 or 500 feet, you can potentially attack it up to 10 miles away. It's going to take a whole minute for the attack to arrive. And at the 500 to 1 mile scale, you can basically attack 100 miles away, and it's going to take 10 minutes for it to arrive. If a target is further than 1 mile away and is aware of the attack, the time taken for the ammunition to travel is so long that, if the target can move, it can choose whether the attack hits or misses. This is useful if you decide to throw an asteroid at the Elven base at the end of Light as Araxis. I mean, there is math for you to drag an asteroid from Doom Space through the astral with you on your fleet of about 1,000 feet in size, which is about a tenth of the size of the Citadel of Light. I think it would deal somewhere around D4 times 100 damage. So it would be able to basically, you could basically split the light citadel, the where the beacon, the lights coming in, all that brouhaha that connects it to the sun. You could throw an asteroid and smash that citadel. We give you all the hit point totals for that. And the fleet that you have is big enough that you could grab a rock from Doomspace and drag it with you, or like one of the shattered shards. You can take that with you and just let the momentum carry. And your first attack with your fleet battle at the during that fleet battle in Lazaraxis is you fling a giant asteroid and say, "Fuck you, deal with this." And while it's closing in on the citadel, your fleet basically scatters and starts attacking. Like, you can fly along with the asteroid as it hurls its way towards the citadel, and then you can have space battles along the back of whatever rocket is that you built. Shit, you could build a whole fortress on that back if you had enough time, and then deck it out with weapons to have like choke points and like lead them through the asteroid to take them into traps you have set up with like hundreds of Orans that are on deck, or like maybe you have like 200 Saurons that decide to take up a bunch of trebuchet towers on this asteroid, knowing that it's hurtling to its doom. They're like, we're willing to risk it. We're going to die anyway. Why not? I mean, that'd be one hell of a charisma check, but you might be able to pull that off. So this is the time scale that it takes for different size targets to be able to be attacked. So if a target is further mile away, they can see it. If an unaware target's scan or passive wisdom perception score is higher than the attack roll, the target notices the attack before it's within range. So if your attack roll is so shitty that it's obvious that here it comes, then yeah, I can scoot out of the way if I can move. If I can't move, then I'm all I can do is just watch Doom head my way and maybe escape before we're smashed. There you go. What are we talking about now? Thrown weapons. And again, if you want to see that here in the document that's linked down below, we go back to the Lazaraxis here, and it's at the nope, that's the wrong way to go. Well, that's the book, and it's being a pain in the ass. But we can grab this here and drop down to the end of the document because I like showing it off. Yeah, Citadel of Light, the Radiant Citadel. Thank you. It has 10,000 hit points with a damage reduction of 20 hit points. It's heavy crystal material, AC 18. Yeah, you can hit it. You can destroy it. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. But all these assets are in the download if you decide to pick it up. Well, here we are. Let's see. Gravity range, void range, stray fire. That's right. Thrown weapons. The long range of a thrown weapon in an area without gravity increases to 500 feet. Beyond this range, thrown weapons can be avoided if the target is aware of the attack as described above. Because throwing a weapon is so much slower than like a harpoon flinger is going to launch, or like a ballista is going to launch something at you. Yeah, if it's beyond 500 feet, you can just get out of the way. Stray fire. Ammunition typically drifts to a stop after 1 day, while thrown weapons typically drift to a stop after 10 minutes. As detailed in the drifting, we have an actual section in the combat and the exploration section about drifting objects as hazards and potential random encounters. Like you just run across like space garbage that's on the way somewhere, like somebody jettisoned a bunch of trash. Maybe there's creatures in there. Who knows? Ranged siege weapons. Okay, so ranged siege weapons are massive, complex machines that require multiple actions to load, aim, and fire, such as ballistae, mangonels, trebuchet, and gift cannons. Ranged siege weapon properties. A siege weapon's statistics function like those for creatures with the following additional considerations. So a siege weapon's statistics function like those for creatures with the following additional considerations. Ability score. Siege weapons without a commander. Because we talked about being in command of siege weapons and crew before. They basically become your weapons, and you have your action economy to be able to attack with them. Siege weapons without a commander don't have any ability scores and automatically fail ability checks and saving throws. While under command, a siege weapon, that's a typo, uses 32 left. See, I'm not perfect. Page 32L. Let's grab that. There. Not under command, a siege weapon uses the commander's ability modifiers. See the siege commander rules section above for more details, which we went over last week. Resistances and immunities. Siege weapons are typically immune to poison and psychic damage. I say typically because you can awaken them and they become animated sentient creatures, in which case they would be able to be affected by psychic damage. Siege weapons are also usually immune to the following conditions: blinded, charmed, deafened, exhaustion, frightened, incapacitated, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, prone, stunned, and unconscious. Siege weapons don't require air, food, drink, or sleep. Hit points. Siege weapons have 10 hit points for each 5 feet of space they occupy, plus the listed number of crewmates, as listed in each weapon's description below. For example, a ballista that occupies a 10-foot space with a listed crew of 3 has 50 hit points. When a siege weapon drops to 0 hit points, it is destroyed and can no longer function until repaired for 1 or more hit points. Siege weapons don't have hit dice. You know what? I'm thinking about changing that to having at least half of its hit points. Half or more of its maximum hit point total. I think that's the way that I want to word it. Siege weapons don't have hit dice and don't benefit from healing. However, they can be repaired as detailed in the Making Repair section above. See the Siege Commander Rules section above for additional details about preventing them from taking damage by using your own hit points to protect your weapons and crew from taking damage. Operating siege weapons. Siege weapons require multiple actions to load, aim, and fire. Individual creatures can use attacks and a bonus action to do so. For example, a ballista requires 3 actions to load, aim, and fire. A 5th level fighter can make 2 attacks and use a bonus action to load, aim, and fire the weapon alone once during a round of combat. Alternatively, siege commanders can use actions to command teams called siege weapon crews. So I could either do it myself or I could command a siege weapon crew. So siege weapon crews. Siege weapon crews are teams of NPC creatures similar to swarms that coordinate their actions to load, aim, and fire ranged ship weapons as ordered by a creature acting as a siege commander. Siege weapon crew properties. Generally, siege crew use the commoner stat block, but different types of creatures can be crewmates. Creatures have half cover while occupying the space of a siege weapon or while within 5 feet of it. Siege crews on 5-foot maps. The crew of a siege weapon these little boxes are kind of like little sidebars, but I opted against saying sidebar. Siege crew on 5-foot maps, blah blah blah. I just have them as like little asides in a different color box. The crew of a siege weapon occupy the same space as the siege weapon on the map. So the individual creatures in the crew don't need to be shown on a map until a crewmate moves away from the siege weapon or it's destroyed. Each crewmate can be placed individually on a 5-foot scale map to show their position on deck as necessary. This reduces clutter on the map and keeps the siege weapons visible during combat while they are being used. I should actually switch that. Until a crewmate moves away from the siege weapon or is destroyed. This reduces clutter on the map and keeps the siege weapons visible during combat while they are being used. And then as a separate statement, then say each crewmate can be placed individually on a 5-foot scale map to show their position on a deck as necessary. That I should actually flip those around. Since that's one of the things that we're doing here, let me grab that and go to page 32R. I'm going to flip it. One, two, three, four, five, six. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have the space. I have an extra line of space here at the bottom of the page. So assuming the rest of this text remains unchanged, I actually have an extra line. So that 6 lines that I have here can be fit into these 5 lines of space just by expanding the box down a little bit and adding that extra line. I'll just have to push down all this text. It's literally 1 line. I'm not happy how that little white mark shows up occasionally on the bottom of the document. I don't know why it does that. I think I have to use bleeds. I don't have any bleeds in this document. They're all flush up against the margin of the page or the edge of the page. But I think if I were to add, just like at least like an 1/8 inch bleed, I'd probably be able to remedy that problem. So I don't think I'm going to change that for this document. That'd be a lot of fucking pain in the ass work. But I may need to explore that with the Eberron book that we're building. Yeah. So that works. So we can do that. Sidebar. Siege weapon and crew rank. As siege crews become more experienced, their rank can increase. A crew rank can range from 1st to 5th, as detailed in the increasing crew rank section below. And all these things, anywhere it says bold with parentheses or with quotation marks, that's hyperlinked. They'll just jump you down to that section. I don't want to jump right now because I'm in the middle of a thing. Reloading ranged ship weapons. Siege weapons take multiple actions to aim, fire, and reload, together called a reload score. The number of actions required to efficiently operate a siege weapon is equal to the reload score, which is also the number of creatures that can crew the machines as a team. Isn't that convenient? When a commander makes a command check to attack with a siege weapon, the result of rolling the command die is compared to the reload score. If the result is equal to or higher than the weapon's score, the crew reloads the weapon as part of the attack, ready to fire again on the next command. If the result is less than the weapon's reload score, the reload action, as an action or a reaction, must be used to command the crew to reload the weapon before it can fire again. For example, a trebuchet has a base reload score of 7. If the result of the command die is 6 or less, the crew doesn't automatically reload, and the commander must use the reload action to command the team to ready the weapon to fire again. So instead of you looking at it from my character can fire this ballista every 3 rounds, or if I use all of my action economy, I can fire it once per round. Now it's, I'm going to issue a command, and that crew is all going to use a piece of their action economy to load, aim, and fire the weapon. As though there were 3 of me, there are 3 of them. I have an attack, I have a bonus action, and I have a reaction. And I can pool all those things together to get 3, 4, maybe 7, depending on what level of fighter I am, action economy to be able to aim, load, and fire a weapon. So if I have a crew of people that can also use action, bonus action, and reaction, then if I issue a single command to attack, then the 3 guys needed to operate the ballista could then use a action to each in turn load, aim, fire the weapon, and that's 1 burst. I still have a reaction and a bonus action left. So my crew is using their reactions to reload the weapon, and they're using their attack and their bonus action to aim and fire the weapon under my command. So if I can issue 3 attacks per round, I could have that crew fire 3 times if I can keep hitting my reload score number. So that's a fun way that you can tweak the higher level your character is, the higher results you're going to get on your reload score. And the higher rank crew you hire to man your team, the lower they can drop the reload score. So your stats get higher while the target number will drop if you pay for that quality. And it becomes really easy as you get to these higher levels to be able to stack up reliable damage, firing multiple weapons per round to be able to deal more damage, just like creatures at higher CRs have multi-attack. They can attack multiple times as well. It's the exact same mechanics, except that there's a variable of the reload die that may allow you to fire consistently, or if you're rolling like shit, you're going to have to waste time issuing a command for your team to get their shit together and reload the weapon so we can please fire it again. Thank you. Modifying reload score. So the reload score of a siege weapon is reduced by the rank of the crew to a minimum of 1. For example, a ballista with a base reload score of 3 operated by a second or higher rank crew has a rescore of 1. So it's impossible for you not to reload a ballista if you have a second or higher rank crew, which basically tells you that a ballista is a second rank weapon, while a mangonel is like a fourth rank weapon. And then you get into trebuchet and larger weapons. They're just too big and complicated for you to efficiently rely on them being able to deal damage consistently. Crewing a weapon with additional creatures doesn't reduce the reload score, but operating the siege weapon is more difficult when fewer crew are operating it. The reload score of a siege weapon increases by the number of crew missing. For example, a ballista with a base reload score of 3 operated by one first-rank crew member has a reload score of 4, while one third-rank crewmate has a reload score of 2. Its reload score is 3, and then you reduce it by 3 because there's a third-rank character here, so that's going to drop it to 0, but you're missing 2 people, so that increases it to 2 again. And then for the one first-rank crewmate, the reload score is 3. He's going to drop it to 2, but he's missing 2 people, so that increases by 2. So it's a little mathy, but once you get it figured out, once you get the hang of it, it's pretty intuitive. But this having less people slows down your ability to reload and fire the weapon, obviously. So you're going to be able to load and fire the weapon. Is the reload score that slows things down. Getting another weapon, getting another piece of ammunition loaded, and turning the crank and getting things set. If you only got one guy doing it, it's going to take a little while. So the reload score gets worse. Unless he's really high rank and he can take care of it. That third rank crewmate is, if I had like 2 of these guys, if I had a 4th rank crewmate, it would basically be like my fighter, having enough action economy to load and fire the weapon by itself. Commanding multiple weapons. So as detailed above, a siege commander can take command of 1 or more weapons and crew during your turn, and all weapons can be ordered to fire together as a single action, making 1 command check. If the attack hits, the sum of all damage rolls together is dealt as a single source, because there's damage reduction. And if you fired 4 weapons and each one of them had damage reduction, it makes it annoying for you to want to fire multiple weapons. You want to make it rewarding. So when you fire multiple weapons, it basically becomes a single attack roll, kind of like Magic Missile. But there's no attack. It's like Magic Missile is like a single attack. If the attack hits, the sum of all damage rolls together is dealt as a single source. When commanding multiple mounted weapons together, targeting is considered a siege. When you're attacking with multiple mounted weapons, targeting is considered a siege weapon attack. So you have to worry about a reload score for mounted weapons. Normally, a mounted weapon can be fired as often as you have attack rolls. So like if I have 3 attacks as an 11th level fighter, I can attack with a mounted weapon 3 times. If weapons deal different types of damage for the purposes of overcoming resistance and immunity, half or ignore the result of the affected damage type before adding them to the total damage. Let's see, reloading multiple siege weapons. So when commanding more than 1 siege weapon, add the modified reload score of all weapons together as a combined reload score and compare the result to the command die roll. If the command die result is equal to or higher than the command reload score, all crews reload their weapons as part of the attack, ready to fire again on the next command as normal. If the result is less than the combined score, each weapon crew requires a separate reload action. For example, if you command 3 ballista crews, each with a reload score of 2, the combined reload score is 6. 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6. If the result of the command die is 5 or less, each ballista requires a separate reload command, which is eating up reactions and attack actions. So it's a big gamble. You can have all your weapons ready to fire as an opening barrage, and if something goes on, like you might do that knowing you can't. Like if I had 8 ballistas set up in a line of fire, and I fired off all of them, I'd do 8d4 times 10 damage in one solid barrage, but the reload score would be 16. I'm going to fail that. So now I've fired all these weapons. Now I'm just maybe grab 1 or 2 of them and focus fire with those 2. And then like the cleric's going to take 1, the bard is going to take 1, and the wizard is piloting. So maybe they'll each take 2, and we'll eventually get all these up and running again. And then you can decide how many weapons do I want to fire again as a barrage, or am I going to be able to take care of 1 consistently, just use that single 1 attack. So you get to figure out for your character what style do you like. If I have multiple weapons I can attack with, are we the type that we're going to, like, say, dump Bardic Inspiration into your command check to try to ramp up your ability to hit the reload score so you're able to fire more weapons together as a barrage? Or do you not have consistent die rolling, so you better just each character oversee 1 individual weapon so that you can at least have some reliability on your team of being able to fire off at least once a round? These are individual decisions that you can make as you play to determine what's the optimal strategy for your team to operate together. Here's a list of ranged siege weapons. So various types of ranged siege weapons are listed here. Ballista, 500 pounds. I pointed this out in the Artificer subclass, that 500 pounds also happens to be the weight limit to Tensor's floating disc. So if you have a ballista and you have Tensor's disc, you can float a ballista into a dungeon with you, as long as there's at least 10-foot wide corridors. Like if you want to go attack that dragon, take some tensor discs and bring some ballistas in with you. Have a crew and set up like an Odalic, set up a. If you're fighting dragons, you should probably be high enough level for, like, say, what the fuck is the name of the spell I'm trying to think of? That globe of limited vulnerability, a minor globe of invulnerability to block 3rd level and lower spells, and to give your team like resistance to fire, whatever type of damage you're doing. So you're a siege commander overseeing your ballista crew at the back line, back with the wizard, can be firing big damage, possibly with tethers, because we have ammunition in here for grappling lines. So if you hit a dragon with grappling ammunition off of a ballista, you'll deal D4 times 10 damage, and you have now grappled the dragon, and you can reel it in so it can't fly away from you. So tensor discs are pretty cool. 500 pounds, AC 13, 50 hit points, 200 gold. So that puts it in the uncommon classification of construction. So it's like a second rank item. It's effectively like you have common, uncommon, rare, very rare, and legendary items, which cost 100 gold, 400 gold, 4,000 gold, 40,000 gold, 200,000 gold. A ballista being 200 gold in value puts it in the uncommon classification, or the second rank of item creation in the Bastion campaign book that we've been going over. So you can build these. Basically, you should be good at building these by 5th level, is basically what that means. Reload score of 3 that we looked at. Here's your gravity versus void range. So from the DMG, your gravity range is 120 feet as a close, and then 480 as a far attack. But in the void, close range or normal range is 500 feet, and of course 1 mile, 5,000 feet. That's your maximum range. And then damage is D4 times 10 piercing. Mangonel is D6 times 10. Reload score of 5. See that? Reload score of 3 with a D4. Reload score of 5 with a D6. Reload score of 7 with a D8. 2D8. Reload score 14. Trebuchet. Mangonel 2x2 space. D6. 1,000 weight. It's twice the weight as this one. 5 crew. 200, 800 foot range from the DMG, and 1,000 to 1 mile range and void. Trebuchet, huge, 3x3, 1,500 pounds. You can see the scaling here. up in weight with the dice sizes. Cost increases. Let's see. Gravity range 300 feet or 1,200 feet. Void range is 1,500 feet or up to a mile. And then it's D8 times 10 bludgeoning. And then the gift cannon. Gift cannons are special. It has an asterisk weight, armor class, and hit points. It costs 8,000 gold. Has a reload score of 14. And does 2d 8 times 10 bludgeoning damage with a 3,000 foot close range up to a mile away. The asterisk here means that these weapons are so massive that they are built directly into the gift bombard ship, similar to ship melee weapons, and the vessel must be reduced to 0 hit points to also destroy the cannon. See, the gift, the bombard is basically just it's like Space Marines, man. It's just a giant flying gun, and you point it at something and you fire, and it does a lot of damage. 2 asterisks. Due to its unusual, crew reload score of 14 double asterisk. Due to its unusual construction, a gift giant cannon requires a pilot or squadron commander to command both the movement of the ship and the weapon crew to aim, fire, and load the weapon, because you are the one that has to orient the weapon to fire, because it can only fire in one direction. It's not on it's not on like a swivel or a turret or anything like that. The direction that it's facing is all it's going to do. So the pilot has to aim the ship, which becomes part of the high reload score that you've got because of the pilot's involvement. Doesn't that just nicely work out? I love that. I just absolutely geek out about that. But that lets you build ships that are basically just giant cannons or giant weapons that can be steered, right? So now we have a format for steering just like massive scale weapons, which we can use in the Monsters and Machines supplement that we're going to build. I'm going to take a sip of water. It's been too long. Oh, man. Okay. We're doing good. Ranged mounted weapons. Ranged mounted weapons are too large for a creature to wield with 2 hands, but small enough that one creature can crew the weapon while mounted to a vehicle. Mounted weapon, again, you could use a tensor's floating disc to haul mounted weapons around with you if you wanted to. And they're only 5 feet in size, so you could actually navigate 5-foot dungeons with them. But again, that's using cool magic tactics. Mounted weapon properties. Mounted weapons are the best thing you can do is buy 4 war dogs and a bunch of tensor scrolls, and then some mounted weapons, so that your war dogs can basically haul the siege weapons around without you having to occupy your space doing it. And they can just drag along with you. When you run into encounters, you can unhook the dogs so they run off and they start attacking something, and then man and fire the siege weapons at whatever it is that you're facing. You can totally go through dungeons that way. Try it sometime. Mounted weapon properties. Mounted weapons are objects that occupy space aboard a ship, adding its weight to the total cargo of the ship. As objects, mounted weapons share the same AC and hit points as the ship they're mounted to. Crewing a mounted weapon. Mounted ranged weapons can typically be crewed by one creature that occupies the space of the weapon or is within 5 feet of it, and the crewmate gains half cover. Creatures that can make multiple weapon attacks can do so with a mounted weapon, and when commanded to attack, the base reload score is 1. So what happens if you fire 5 mounted weapons together? Then it has a reload score of 5. And you'll deal 5 times the damage of whatever the individual weapons are. And here we have a harpoon flinger, a drow with a harpoon flinger, and a cleric overseeing a eldritch cannon, both of which are mounted weapons. List of ranged mounted weapons. Various mounted ranged weapons are as listed. Various mounted ranged weapons are listed here. Come on, Kearney. Some of these typos are embarrassing, but you know what? I don't mind you guys watching. It's not embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's humiliating that I have so many typos. But I am proud that when I see them, I'm able to go back and make changes to them. Various mounted weapons are listed below. Here we go. Eldritch cannon. I can't believe those typos went through like that. Commonly equipped aboard tyrant ships. These are what beholders use to use disintegration rays and shit off of their ships. Requires focus, medium size, 1x1 space, 5 foot square, 250 pounds. Armor class and hit points are as per ship because they're mounted. Crew reload score is 1, as we discussed. Special requires spell casting to operate. It can be used as an orrery station and can be used as a spell amplifier as detailed below. Gravity and void range is 500 feet plus 500 feet per spell level. Eldritch cannons don't have a long range, they just have their fixed range. Damage type is force. Mounted damage. The amount of damage dealt as a mounted weapon is determined by the casting level of the character or the rank of the crewmate with the magical abilities as listed on the table below. So if your caster level is at the 5 breaking points of rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you gain your proficiency bonuses at 1st, 5th, 9th, 13th, 17th. That's also your half casting progression, which is also the scale that we use for different ranks in the Bastion campaign system and powers in the martial power system. I'm a huge fan of the 5 rank step in the 5e game engine to frame your game around. I understand the language of the 4 tiers of play, but I think it's more accurate to break it up into 5 because these really are where breaking points in your character's strength is. 5th level, casters get access to 3rd level spells. That's like Fireball and all the really nasty damage spells that deal AoE that come into a game. 9th level, you get access to 5th level spells like Raise Dead and Contact Other Plane, Teleport. I think you get Teleportation Circle at that level. Like you start getting high rank utility stuff coming through. 7th level, we're talking about Resurrection at this point. What is it? Like Holy Symbol. Really high level shit. And then 17th level, we get access to Wish. You know, all the absurd like Meteor Swarm and shit like that. So these really are the 5 breaking points inside of the game. And so I like to structure and tier my game that way. And when I run a campaign, from level 1 to 20, and I know that the intention is to do so, I structure my campaigns in 4 level blocks. So level 1 to 4 will be like your season premiere. Like for a TV show, it's your first season of introducing all the people and all the narrative and all the like how the world works and all the quirks of the narrative that you have in your story. At 5th level, you're starting to get your feet. You're starting to find your first like real boss that you have to fight. But basically, at each tier, you're getting basically it's a new season in a TV show. Your plot's going to shift. In the first 4 levels, you should get your feet and probably defeat like the first mini boss that's in your campaign. That's going to lead you to the next conflict. That's going to lead you to the next conflict, and then at 17th level, you're cleaning up your campaign. Basically, from 17th to 20th level, it's basically like getting even and stitch and like tying off all the loose ends to all the shit that happened in the previous 16 levels. Like you're doing cleanup at that point. At least that's how I run campaigns, and it's pretty smooth. Because by the time your characters get to 17th level, they're going to do whatever they want anyway. So if you built a solid campaign from level 1 to 20 with lots of potential plot hooks that the team in no way could potentially ever follow all of them, you start having them circle back around and congeal into single threads that, like, if you didn't deal with it at 5th level, it becomes a big fucking problem by 13th level. You might have 2 or 3 major plots going on at 9th level, but you only have the capacity to deal with one of them at a time. So as your team continues to gain power and choose what path they want to go down and mess with, those other paths are untended. So they'll eventually come back and overgrow where you're trying to get to, and you're going to have to deal with them to deal with what you actually want to deal with, because other plots start getting in the way of you being able to achieve your goal. And so by the time you get to 17th level, you have so many frayed ends that are trying to connect together to cause a problem that your team is basically just settling the score, getting even with, and laying down the law to all the bullshit they've been fucking around with for the first 16 levels. It's very cathartic for 17th, 18th, 19th, and by the time you're at 20th level, you have cleaned up. The world is as you want it to be, and you can retire your characters, and you know, you can do an epilogue, and like, how did you want your characters to change the world, and then incorporate that change into your next campaign when you fire up your next 1 to 20. You can just roll from campaign to campaign that way, taking different slices of life from your campaign world or multiverse, and just create a little story around that particular topic and see where it blows out to reach out and hit other areas of your campaign world. So once everything collapses down and you close the campaign, it's like, I really like what was going on over there in the Mournland. Can we do a Mournland campaign next? It's like, hell yeah, we can. Us doing our Endless Days time travel campaign got the team spilling into the Astral Sea. So by the end of that campaign, they're like, I know that Spelljammer happened and that you've been building a book. Let's do a Spelljammer campaign. So now we're running an Eberron Spelljammer campaign built out of the hijinks that the team had done in the last 2 campaigns from level 1 to 20. The 1 to 20 the time travel campaign, which basically destroyed the world and turned it into a bunch of asteroids, which is where the team is operating right now. And the campaign before that was awakening all Warforged, so that they then realized that their true identity, their souls, were all the dead Sirens that died in the morning. So when they regained their consciousness, the whole campaign was revolving around awakening the Warforged so they could remember who they were. That was the main campaign goal that the team set for themselves, which was awesome. And by the time they were able to figure it out, there was a demon that had basically tricked them into building the Warforged as a way for that elder god, that patron spirit, to be able to recycle souls. You're a warlock and you gain levels, and when you die, I collect all the mana that you accumulate. I gave you 1 point of mana at first level, and through your adventuring, you were able to give me a 15 level return, because at 15th level, you've got 15 pack mana, and then like another like 15 points of arcane magic. So like that's like, I gave you 1 point to build, and from that little point of mana, you built it out into 40 mana. Good little warlock, I kill you now, and I collect all that mana. And now this demon found a way to recycle those warlock souls back into the bodies of reality. And so when they came back as Warforged, he still has his hooks in them. So he's still gaining hit dice and mana off of them to continue accumulating power without having to make any new packs, because he makes you forget who you were, and you pledge your eternal soul to this god to be able to gain these powers that that Sire was unearthing or discovering through its science experiments. So it was being fed demonic knowledge, and that demon collected the entire nation for it in one fell swoop. The Morning basically wiped out their entire civilization and collected all the mana that they had accumulated as a result of their learning. Big move. And then now the technology of Warforged still exists. It was able to recycle souls back into these Warforged, and then they woke up, realized what was happened. They built an armada, took it to hell, and destroyed that demon in his home plane. And now they're all free. The machine nation of Sire, without a home, they moved to the stars, and that's the gnomes, dwarves, and Warforged are the 3 races that players can choose from in the Spelljammer Eberron campaign. This particular one, I like to limit your choices in some of these campaigns, like to have like a really narrow slice, so that you can like the campaign before that you can only play humans, because we had a bunch of first-time players, like making you play a dwarf. Why don't you just figure out how to role play first? Let's have you be a human, so everyone in the team was a human. So we had to deal with darkness and aging. Like aging was one of the hazards in the time travel campaign, and humans lived for a very short time period. So it was a lot of fun. Major tangent there, guys. Sorry. I geeked out for a second there because I love that scale, that five tier scaling. I think is really important. Caster level, crew rank, the mounted damage. So if you've got a 2nd rank or effectively a 5th level caster, the mounted damage that is basically casting a cantrip through the cannon, of course, it's going to do 2d8 damage because 5th level. By the time you get the 17th level, it's 5d8 damage. That's pretty much in pace with what cantrips can do anyway. But you're just able to launch it out at this level. It would be 500 feet. The cantrip would be only 500 feet, but if I dumped like an 8th level spell slot into it, it would be an extra 4,000. It'd be an extra. It'd be 2,500 foot range that I'd be able to hit you with, and I'd do D10 times 10 siege damage. That's horrible to spend your 8th level spell slot on that, right? But if you're using a mana point system like I suggest mana for everything because I love mana. But that's just 8 points of mana. You can do that a lot. I mean, if you have like 80 mana, you can do that 10 times. It's pretty good. Siege damage. When a spellcaster hits with an Eldritch Cannon attack, you can deal siege damage by using a bonus action and spending a spell slot as listed above. For example, a 7th level sorcerer can deal 2d8 force damage with a successful attack, or can use a bonus action to spend a 4th level spell slot to deal d8 times 10. Monsters with magical abilities but no spell slots can roll a recharge die with a target number of 6, as detailed in the Amplifying Monster Spellcasting sidebar below. So, if my Beholder ship comes at you with 3 Eldritch Cannons on board, shooting Disintegrate Rays at you, 6th level spell, they're going to do d8 times 10 damage, because Disintegrate's a 6th level spell. So each of these is going to do d8 times 10, but I have to hit that recharge die roll of 6 for me to be able to use that Disintegration Ray again. Until I hit that 6, a Beholder, I think it's CR 11, so I can pop off 3d8 damage per round. That's kind of how, like, as soon as I hit that d6, instead of just only blinking damage, blap, I'm going to hit you hard. Or I could slow you, or I could try to charm your pilot, or I could hit you with a cause wounds, or petrify your ship, or whatever. Harpoon Flinger, much more mundane. 50 feet, 50 pounds, 1 by 1, armor class and hit points at ship. Crew reload score of 1. I pulled this directly from Descent into Avernus. The Harpoon Flinger is the typical mounted weapon on all of the Infernal War Machines. So that if you're familiar with Descent into Avernus, that should look really familiar. These mechanics, by the way, work fantastic for Mad Max campaigns. If you wanted to run Mad Max or Endless Desert, using Descent into Avernus as your framework of basically building machine clans in Avernus, you can totally use this system. Just take away the flight and instead give them that land speed of 50-foot squares. So basically like 50 miles per hour is your cap speed. It works pretty well. That's actually where these mechanics came from. We built the Mad Max mechanics first, and then Spelljammer happens. Like, fuck, all we gotta do is give these guys wings and hover, and we're good to go, and it worked. Ammunition. Ammunition is measured in shots per ton, costing 100 gold pieces per ton of ammunition. Ammunition, the number per ton, and the cost of each ton. Harpoon bolts, there's 200 per ton. It costs you 5 silver pieces per harpoon bolt. Ballista bolts, there's 50 per ton. They're 2 gold pieces each. Mangonel stones, there's 10 per ton, which basically means it's a 200-pound rock. For those that don't know metric. 10 gold pieces per rock, which sounds expensive, but you have to get them cut into a shape that works for fitting into a mangonel of large enough mass to deal the damage that you want. Trebuchet stones, there's 5 per ton, 400-pound rocks, 20 gold pieces a pop to get them into the shape that you need. And then gift cannon stones, they're exotic shaped material to fire out of the cannon, 50 gold pieces a pop. Foraging ammunition. Ammunition can be gathered in the wilderness if the DM determines there are sufficient resources available. Bolts. Bolts are generally crafted from wood that can be gathered in a forest or similar environment. A ton of ballista or harpoon bolts requires 100 times 20 feet of tree and 20 days of work, which can be divided amongst crew. To carve, make a DC 15 strength or dexterity check using carpenter tools to reduce crafting time to 10 days on a success. Stones. Stones are generally hewn from rock that can be gathered in any environment where a bare stone is visible. Mangonels, trebuchet, and gift stones use the same stone. Trebuchet use twice as many as mangonels, and gift cannon use 5 times the amount. A ton of small or medium rocks require 1 mile of rocky, low vegetation terrain and 10 days of work, which can be divided among crew to gather. Make a DC 15 strength and constitution check using miners or sculptor's tools to reduce crafting time to 5 days on a success. So you're automatically going to be able to gather the material, but you can make a check to make it go faster, which I think is a good way to go for creating mundane stuff in general. Special ammunition. In addition to normal ammunition, special ammunition can be used with ranged ship weapons. Reload modifiers. Ammunition that has a reload modifier increases the reload score of the siege weapon when used. For example, when a mangonel with a reload score of 5 uses shrapnel flak with a +2 reload modifier, the mangonel reload score increases to 7. When a harpoon flinger with a reload score of 1 uses a piercing bolt with no reload modifier and a towing cable with a +2 reload modifier, the harpoon flinger reload score increases to 3. Bolt ammunition. The following options modify bolt ammunition. Cost is per bolt, either harpoon or ballista. They don't care which one. A flaming bolt, it's a +1 reload score. Piercing bolt doesn't change your reload score. Towing cables increases your reload score by 2. And the cost is 50 feet per 50 is 10 gold and 5 feet per 50 feet length of cable. So a flaming bolt, when you deal damage using this ammunition, a 1x1 fire occupying a 5-foot square starts aboard the ship at the location of your choice, that aboard the target ship, starting fire section below. I don't have that hyperlinked. What page are we on? 35? 33. No, 35. I was right. Page 35R. The target ship at a location of your choice that you can see as detailed in the starting fire section below, which we're going to have to modify because of the burning hazard that exists now. Stone ammunition. Oh, and then towing piercing bolts. When you deal damage using this ammunition, ignore the target's damage reduction. That's super useful. Expensive to acquire it, but super useful. If you can afford it, use it. It's like explosive tips. Whew. Towing cables, reload score 2. When you deal damage using this ammunition, the target is grappled as though the ammunition is a piercing ram with a reach equal to the length of the cable. See how that works? See how easy that is? It's super simple. Then you can just reel in your dragon. Stone ammunition. The following options modify stone ammunition. Cost per stone, whether mangonel, trebuchet, or a gift cannon. And again, we mentioned, never mind. Burning pitch, shrapnel flak, and tanglefoot tar. So burning pitch +2, shrapnel flak +2, tanglefoot tar +1, and that shit is expensive. Burning pitch. When you deal damage using this ammunition, deal an additional 20 fire damage, and a 2x2 fire starts at any location you can see aboard the target ship. Target ship as detailed in the starting fires. Shrapnel flak. Instead of dealing damage when using this ammunition, the target rolls with disadvantage against inertia shock until the end of its next turn. So shrapnel. Instead of dealing damage when using this ammunition, the target the target rolls with disadvantage against inertia shock until the end of your turn. So basically, if you're trying to escape somebody by ramping up your speed and blasting out of range, you're potentially going to face inertia shock yourself. If you drop the flak, if they attempt to pace you and increase their speed to hyper jump with you, if you throw flak behind you on your exit, then when they try to jump with you, they're going to roll their inertia check at disadvantage. And if you can force them to make an inertia shock check, then if they fail, they're going to get stunned for a round, and which makes it really easy for you to escape. Tanglefoot tar. Instead of dealing damage using this ammunition, choose a 10-foot square that you can see. This area becomes difficult terrain for 10 minutes and starts a 2x2 fire automatically if the area takes any fire damage. Fun. There's, I'm sure, all sorts of ammunition we can come up with. These were just the easy, low-hanging fruit that could fit on the page. When we build monsters and machines, if there's other ammunition ideas, I am certainly open and interested in exploring them. Holy shit, we got the squadrons and fleets. 1 page, 2 page, 3 page, 4 page, 5 page, 6 page, 7 page, 8 page, 9 page. There's 9 pages of fleet and squadron mechanics. And then we have maintaining ships and crew for 1, 2, 3, buckle my shoe, and then we get into spell casting. So we have 12 pages left. It's 8 o'clock now. We've been at this for about an hour and a half. I feel like this is a decent place to stop, actually. I've got artwork I want to get done. I've got some. I need to pull color references from photos for armor and melee combats for the Eberron art tomorrow morning, and I also want to work on the diviner, the silver flame diviner that we're looking at. But I think so I think I'm gonna go ahead and put this on hold for now. I'm not in a rush to get through this. I'm just enjoying the time, and again, we're finding typos, and it's fun finding these things and have the opportunity to fix them. And it's just going to be a better book as a result of it, and it's going to be compliant with 2024 mechanics. So far, a lot of these mechanics haven't actually needed any changes at all, but I am happy to find these little typos. Just better ways of expressing the language in the book, and it's rare that people will point out mistakes like that. So I'm glad to be catching them myself. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and cut stream here. I'm gonna be back we're gonna be back at lunch tomorrow. My plan was to work on the on more Spelljammer subclasses, but it looks like they just updated the Arcane Archer and the way of the Tattooed Monk, the Unearthed Arcana playtest stuff. So I'm going to spend my lunchtime tomorrow looking at those and converting them into the Martial Powers color mana system that we've been building and playtesting on my Discord. So I think I'm going to stream that tomorrow, which means on Monday when we come back, obviously we'll do artwork on tomorrow morning and Monday morning. Monday night when we come back, we're going to start in on, we'll start in Bright-Eyed and Bushy-Tailed. We'll get into doing Squadron and Fleet. And we'll get through we'll get through weapons and crew, and we'll probably go with that 12-page stretch. Maybe we'll get into spell casting, but I suspect I'll be done for the day on Monday after going through all this. There's good details here, making repairs, all that shit's good. So we definitely want to update all that stuff. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do on Monday. I'm gonna go ahead and cut stream now. My muse is telling me to get out of here and go do some artwork off screen. And so, thanks a lot for hanging out with me, guys. I really appreciate everyone that's tagging in. And thanks for keeping me company. Thanks for checking out the books. If you think they're cool, maybe pick some of them up. Throw me some coin as a note of hello. I'd be welcome to join my Discord channel. Be welcome to ask questions anywhere. And Rookie, man, I really appreciate you, man. Thanks for sticking around, dude. I'm going to see you guys on the other side. So tomorrow morning, I'll be back in doing more artwork. I'll see you guys then. Cheers.